Hello everybody, and welcome back to On the Grid. Hope everyone is doing well. As you can see, we're back into Automobilista 2. They just released another update, and this time did a full skip right over 9.4 and went straight to 9.5. And as you can see, 9.5.1. So literally, as I was about to go live, I saw that it was ready to update, and so I figured, well, let's let the update happen and get the most current version up. Just a perfect timing, I guess. So they've done, another pretty big update, and considering that they're going to 9.5, 9.5.1, it's really showing that they're trying to push hard to get to the final release, and I can imagine that's not too far off in the near future. But this has been, a pretty interesting ride so far, because there's been a lot of changes to, the physics, to the force feedback. They've been updating the UI constantly, and I've been talking about this in pretty much every stream that I've been doing. But this is really interesting, the way that they're moving forward with this. So this here update 9.5. There's been a few tweaks here and there, and some of the things that I picked out that I thought were great to see happen. One is the default view. So what was happening is, when you jump into multiplayer, the default view of going to cockpit. So let me just get that clear. I'll back up a little bit. So sometimes if you've been playing multiplayer and you jump in, if you're messing around the menu and you're playing in the setups or whatever it may be, when you're on the starting grid, you default automatically to the spectator view. And in that spectator view, you're kind of like you're watching off on the side or in the grandstand, so you don't know how to control your car. And so a lot of people were having quite a few accidents right at the beginning, because they weren't in their car and didn't know how to get back in their car. The only way to do it was to press the start menu and immediately jump back in. So that has been updated in the UI. So when you start the multiplayer, you automatically default into the cockpit view, so that it prevents you from having that issue. So that's a really, really nice thing that they've changed. And again, they've done some changes with the force feedback. Now, before I went into 9.5.1, I was running 9.5 earlier today and playing around with it. And one of the things that they did was they added a scrub function to the rear tires. Now, I'm not sure exactly what it did, but apparently it's been fixed in 9.5, so it was like a temporary thing, or it was a mistake that kind of slipped through. But it just felt like really odd. It had this really odd feeling in your car when you were going around the corners and you were feeling the slip out from the back of the car. It just felt kind of, how can you explain it? It just felt like kind of grainy, almost like you had sand, or it had some kind of weird vibrations, really fake vibrations in the wheel. So it was an odd thing. So apparently that's kind of been updated in 9.5, and I just pulled up the 9.5.1 notes, and I'll go through that in a second. What else did they change? So the error in the parking force script. These are a lot of kind of under the hood type of things, but the main notable one is really, one, the steering rack dampening no longer passes through low force boost. So we'll test that out. And what I've been doing lately is running the force feedback with the default values, but turning low force boost and turning FX all the way down to 0, just to get as pure of the force feedback from the game, pure data from the game as much as possible, without any other effects over the top. Now, if you're running on a direct drive wheel, the thing that happens is, a lot of times people with direct drive wheel in this kind of game, because it has these effects that are layered on top, even if you're not using the low force or effects or whatever it may be, even if you're not using those, there is some layer of effects that are on top of the data that's coming in. So a lot of times what you end up doing is, if you create a custom force feedback profile, which, if we look back, at Project Cars 2 or any of those, there was a lot of tweaking and a lot of people coming out after the release with many customized types of force feedback, whether it would increase like SOP, which is more like the seat of pants feel, or things that were more on inertia. So it was playing with a lot of different types of custom force feedbacks, and people with direct drive wheel tend to kind of go into custom force feedback. Personally, so far I've been liking the way the force feedback is. I think it's good. I think there's some tweaks, and I wasn't kind of making my final evaluation on it based on the fact that it's still a beta and it's still in development. So it's not a final release. So when 1.0 comes out, or 1.1, whatever it may be, we'll see how it goes along then. Now, if we look back at, even something like Assetto Corsa Competizione, when that was in its early access, I mean, there was a lot of things that had to be tweaked and fixed in that up until release. And now, what are we, a year later? It's actually, I think it is the anniversary from when it started. It's a completely different game, I would say. I mean, the feeling of the cars, the feeling of driving it is very different. So anyway, I can imagine the same thing happening here. What else has been changed? So a lot more physics again, a lot of tire physics, carcass physics, especially with the V8s and the Caterhams in this build as well. The hot cars and the Razor cars, the Formula cars, have been tweaked as well. And the other thing was the default tire pressures and ride heights have been kind of adjusted. So they've also been working on the AI and tweaking those a bit more and calibrated more the performance of the AI and how they react. So that's good to see that that still works, because they are good, but there's still some things that need to be tweaked. And then some audio fixes on the Formula V10 specifically. As far as tracks, not really any big things in this update as far as tweaks to the layouts and so forth, or tweaks to how the tracks are in its current state. So there hasn't been really anything done to that. The only other thing, as far as vehicles are concerned, they added more liveries and updated liveries and designs, and they added some more visual brake glow. So when you heat up your brakes, you can see visually. I guess that's really good for replays, but when you're driving a car, you're not looking out the car to try and see if your brakes are hot or not. So that's more of a, I guess, a replay thing. And then more suspension animation. So that's when we're talking about 9.5. So here is the hotfix update to 9.5.1. So spectator leaderboard position text always being forced to the wrong color. Applied a HUD style leaderboard to the replay and monitor screens. Fixed the disabled view replay button. Reversed the force feedback. Okay, so they did update then that. Great. So they have reversed the tire scrub effect back to the previous version from 9.3.1. My God, it's getting to be a task just to remember all these different versions. But so that's good. So they went back, because like I was saying, it was just an odd feeling that was in the car. All right. So let's get on from where we were. So we were just going back here, and what I was saying is that as far as the force feedback is concerned, I'm just going to go basically with what is the default here, and then what we'll do is we'll jump back in. We'll take one lap and we'll jump back in and just go from 0 low force boost and 0 effects. And the reason we want to do that is we want to try and get as close to the purest force feedback information coming from the game as possible without any effects overlaying on top of it. So we'll leave it as is right now. We'll go out for a lap on Interlagos and then get back in and start tweaking and figuring out where it is now. So let's go. Okay, so right away I can feel that that is too strong. set up with the default at 100. So I'm not going to do anything else. We'll just bring this down to about 60 and see what it feels like there. And we'll just continue driving. But I can feel already a difference. You feel nice and connected to the road, but I think with those low force boost and the effects, I think it's giving just a bit too much of a superficial feel to it. So we'll keep going. Okay, so I can feel that scrub, that rear tire scrub is actually gone, so which was nice because I don't have that kind of weird fake vibration in there anymore. So let's drop these all the way down completely to 0. And we'll go with, yeah, so we'll leave it at this. I think the 60 is a bit light though, so we'll bring that back up to 70. So we'll go with 70 with no force boost, no low force boost, and no effects, and we'll try that out. So one thing I'm seeing is I'm barely feeling any of the curb or any of the road. So it just feels like I'm missing something. So I think that's where we need to add in a bit more of that effects. Let's go in here. We'll add a bit more. Let's just add, let's go to 30. We'll just do a couple of big jumps. We'll leave low force boost off and we'll try that. Yeah, so that's feeling much better already. I think 30 is pretty good. Now let's start dialing in some of the low force boost. So if you're ever doing that, I mean, everybody kind of works in their own way. I just tend to eliminate all the, if there's minimum force or any kind of skip steps or anything like that that's in the game, I just turn it all down to 0 and just run my gain. So I'm getting all the information from that. And then start dialing everything backwards from nothing. So okay, we'll just add a little bit more low force boost because it does feel it feels a bit light around the center. So we'll see if that makes a difference. So there is one odd feeling when I'm turning at like low speed. We'll see if I catch it up here. Yeah, so I think we actually have to dial in, whoops, don't quit. We have to dial in a bit more low force boost. So I think 20, we'll go up to 20. I think effects is good at 30 and the gains there. So my wheel settings haven't changed. I've left these exact same as they were from the previous build, so I don't really want to start tweaking too much there, but I think if I could just dial in the in-game, that's all I really need to do. Okay, so that's starting to feel really nice. I think just adding that 10 points on the low force boost was just enough to kind of bring that weight in there. So let's bring this back down. I don't think I need that much effects. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and just bringing that effects down 10 just got rid of that odd feel, and I'll know right up at this corner here. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And let me just see, so where did we end up? So we have 70 gain, 30 low force boost, 20 FX. I mean, I probably think I can even dial that down a little bit more because I'm feeling the road nicely. I think the curves and all the little details coming through the wheels, I'm feeling that, but I don't think I need to kind of do it so much where it's overkill. So I think just having a little bit of FX dialed in, maybe if you're on a Clubsport wheel or maybe a Thrustmaster wheel or something like that, you might want to, you know, add a bit more. But I think in a direct drive, there's enough detail coming through it that you don't need to add those. All right, so let's jump out of here and we'll try a different car. Let's maybe take one of the Super V8s or something like that. Let's see, try. Actually, you know what? There's been a couple of tweaks to the Sigma. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. I think it was more something to do with the exhaust or boost or something. I have to go back and read. Oh, there's a couple more livery. They had 2 more livery, which is nice. A nice black and red. I'm all for that. So let's try that and let's go on to a different track. Let's do... All right, let's try it on Brands Hatch and see. Okay. I actually really like this car. I think this is it's a nice car to drive. Okay, no, we don't need to do anything. Let's just go out as is. Yeah, so you can see right away I got more control over the car now. It's turning into the corners a bit better with the steering lock set. So I think, that's two quite different cars going from, the Sigma and to the Formula V10s. I think they're quite different, but with these settings, I don't find that I have to keep tweaking. So I might maybe play with the adjustments a bit more. I think the low force boost is good where it is. The effects maybe either dial it down or up a little bit. I might tweak that depending on the car, but I think with the settings that I had from the last build and now to 9.5.1 with these settings, I think it's a good balance. I think it's got a nice feel across the board. So I think, yeah, I think I'm settling on that. I'm not going to keep tweaking away every 5 minutes, trying to find that optimum or the best settings. I think at one point you just got to go, okay, this is good. This feels nice. And now just enjoy the game. So with this update, I think, the tweaks that they've done, and it's good that they went back to that previous version of the tire scrub, because it was kind of feeling quite odd in the wheel, but now it's nice and clean, and there's a lot of nice detail coming in. And depending on your wheel, it's like I said, it's a personal preference. You might want to dial in a bit more effects and really get that curb feel, or a bit more of the effects from the road. The low force boost, personally, I think anywhere between 10 and 20, maybe 30 at the most. I would put that. I wouldn't dial it up too much, because actually when you go in and you dial those down to 0, both of those, this low force boost and the effect, it actually feels quite nice. And all you're really doing is starting to kind of just boost, boost a little bit more of what you're feeling globally. By adding a bit more of the road feel, a little bit of the curb feel, a bit more weight in the wheel. So that's all you're really doing. But I think with 70 there and 40 on my wheel, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So other than that, I mean, there's not really any changes that they've done anywhere else. I mean, I know there was a couple of things in the time trial, but a lot of it is again down to tweaking the cars, tweaking some of the physics and the force feedback again. So I think it's getting quite close to release, and I'll be looking forward to see where they go from here, because I don't really think there's that much more in physics and force feedback. I think that it's really in a good place right now. Now it's just getting everything else to function correctly, and the user experience as far as the menus and the HUD and things like that, and especially multiplayer, making sure multiplayer is good and getting more multiplayer, more rooms online. This seems to be pretty average as to what you get on any given day. Earlier in the week it seems to be a lot less. So hopefully this starts to increase, and we start to see a lot more people in there, a lot more rooms available, because it would be sad if the average that we're going to get. I know we're still in early access and beta, so there's a handful of people in the community that are more than a handful, obviously, but there's a good chunk of people that are playing this game. But I think this is really going to be what makes or breaks this game. If it's able to really attract a lot more people, when you can start setting up league races and consistent races, and making sure things like collision detection and connection and being able to fully control from your dedicated server on what you can do in these multiplayer lobbies. I mean, there's a lot of freedom as far as not freedom, but there's a lot of customization that you can do when building a room. You have everything that you need at your fingertips here, and that's the nice thing between something like this, for example, as opposed to Assetto Corsa or Race Room or R Factor, where you literally have to set up a dedicated server, whereas in this you can just literally build your race within the game. So I think there's some advantages to that, and some people might like to have everything controlled from their end on their own servers, but I think having this option there, it just makes it an easier access for anybody wanting to set up rooms. So maybe as we get closer to the release, or when 1.0 comes and this gets all fully optimized for the final release, we'll take a walk through the multiplayer and see what you can do in setting up your custom event or your lobby, and just how much customization there actually is in there. So anyway, all right, that's a quick look at 9.5.1, and I hope you guys liked it. We'll catch you again soon. All right, take care.